All right, so now for the JavaScript. I need to declare a bunch of variables, so let's just get right into that. We're going to say let I, which is going to be our counter, equal 0. Let time equal 3000, which is equivalent to 3 seconds. Let slide timer, we're just going to declare it without anything else. And then we're going to go into pulling our slideshow elements. So we're going to go document.get elements by class name. This is where I wish I knew, or if CodePen did, allow for the IntelliSense to finish this. I don't have to type it all out. But yeah, slideshow A. And because this pulls an array, we're going to be selecting the first item in that array, which is element 0 at position 0, index 0. And we're just going to duplicate this in order to get slideshow B. I can't type right now. Wow. All right, yeah, in order to get slideshow B. So now that we have those two, we want to pull the slides from each one specifically now. So we're going to call the first one just slides. And we're not going to say document. We want it to pull from the slideshow A element. And then we're going to get all elements by class name with the class slide. And we're pulling all of them. So we want the entire array. So let's take that and let's duplicate it in order to get slides B. And again, slide, but this time it's going to be slideshow B instead of slideshow A. And the last one that we need is going to be the slide dots. So how do we do that? Well, let's go here. I'm trying to copy and paste to save myself time. Document.get elements by class name, and we're going to go ahead and get the dot. All elements have the dot class, and there should be 4. All right, great. So next step is that we have 2 functions. If you've watched my previous video on how to build a basic JavaScript slideshow, then you'll know that these are the exact same 2 functions. So the first one is click change. Now this will handle my manual clicks by clicking these dots in order to get to the slides that I want. The next function is the root, the main heavy lifter, the one that's going to do everything for the most part. And it's called the change slide function. It takes a parameter of n with a default value of I, our counter here, as well as a bool manual with a default value of false. All right, so this function does 3 things. The first one is that it will remove any active features, so any active styles. So let's say if we're on slide 1, the dot that represents slide 1 is going to be styled in a certain way. When we get to slide 2, we want to remove that. The next step is it's going to increment the counter, aka I. And then the last step, or the second last step, is that it's going to apply styles. Apply active styles, right? And finally, we're just going to use the set timeout. So to call it again. All right, so the first one that we want to deal with is we want to deal with the increment the counter. So we're going to use a conditional and say if manual is equal to true. So by default, it's always going to be false. But if manual is set to true, which we will set it in this function, click change, we're going to do something. If it's not, then we're going to do something else. That's how an if-else statement works. So if manual is false, then I is going to be equal to, and we're going to use a ternary operator here. So we're just using a shorthand for a conditional. We're going to ask the question, if I is less than slides.length minus 1, then I is equal to I plus 1. I'm going to just compress it. If not, 0. I is equal to 0. And this is saying if we have 4 slides, regardless of how many slides there are, if there are 4 slides and the I is already at 4, well then it needs to be reset to 0 to go back to the first slide. And this is how we're going to keep continuously loop through the slides, by checking this. All right. The next part is we need to apply the active slide. So we're just going to do one for now, just to make sure that it all works. So we're going to go slideshow a.style.transform. The way that this is going to work is that we're actually going to be moving the entire slideshow from left to right, left or right to left on slideshow B, and that's how we're moving. So we're not moving the individual slides, and this is where this is different from my first tutorial on a basic JavaScript slideshow, is that we're moving the entire slideshow as one unit, one element, and we're incrementing how much it moves to show the different slides, whereas the other one, we literally moved each individual slide. So here we're going to go transform equals, and it's a string, translate x, open and close brackets, and I'm going to add some quotes inside so that I could include some numbers. And what are we including here? We're going to say it is equal to I multiplied by 100. This is a temporary value, and we have to play with it for it to make sense, but it's good for now, and we're going to add pixels here. If that's not making sense, I could space it out. And that's basically what's happening. We have a string here, and then we're adding these numbers that are dynamic, and then a string. So it's getting concatenated into, all of it will end up being one string. And the next one is we could just copy and paste this, and we'll use it for slideshow B. But we'll leave that alone for now. And finally, the last part is we have to set the timeout function. So slide timer is equal to set timeout, and we have to pass in, we want to use this change slide function, and then how long until we run this function? Well, time, the variable, so 3,000, 3 seconds. And that should be it. So let's go through the basics. Window.onLoad equals, so once the window is loaded, call this function change slide, and it already has default, so that should be it. Let's see if something happens. Okay, so you saw it move, you saw it move again, and we're back here, and we should get to there. So it is cycling through. All right, we're seeing it. It is working fundamentally. Not exactly looking that good, but fundamentally it's working. Let's do a little something. For here, we can add the slide dots. So slide dots, and we'll choose I, so whatever is the active one, equals, or sorry, slide dots I dot class list dot add, and we're going to add a class to it, and we're going to call it dot active. All right, there. And we also want to remove it when it, right before we switch to a new slide. We want to remove the previous one. So before we increment the counter, we're going to go ahead and remove the styles on that slide. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to say remove dot active, and that should function as that. So let's go here quickly and we'll add that. So okay, so I already had it. So dot active background is red, and you can see now as this is changing, we're getting this effect. All right, now it's snapping. Well, let's fix that snapping. So let's go ahead here and we'll add a transition to the slideshow. We'll say transition is for the transform, and we'll say 1 second, and the timing function is, right now it's on default for ease. We'll leave it as that. We're going to change this to cubic Bezier to make it a little bit more fancy, but for now that it should be good. All right, so we can see that it's already a bit nicer. Let's add a transition here as well. Go here and we're going to say background, and we'll give it 1 second as well. And now we should see a more gradual change. Nice. Let's go to the slideshow B now. Now we're going to add an effect as well. Well, how is the slideshow moving? Slideshow B.style transform. This guy should be translating as well, but he's He's not really moving. What's going on? Slideshow b.style.transform equals translate x. That should be fine. Let's see if I made a mistake up here. Slideshow b document.get. There it is. I did not set it to actually get the B slides. So now they're moving together because we set it to the same value. Well, what happens if I set it to negative I? Now they should be moving in opposite directions. All right, so we're getting closer to the main idea, right? If I compress this, you'll get a better image of what's going on because it shouldn't overlap. Okay, it overflowed, but that's the basic premise of what's going on. Now we're going to be cleaning this up in order to make it more effective. All right.